Bilkis Bano's case study. I will not delve into the story part of it or the incident part of it because I'm sure all of you know about it. It is a horrifying crime which has been done during the Godhra riots. Bilkis Bano, at that point of time, she was a pregnant woman also. So some unscrupulous people have done a great harm with respect to her dignity. So the case has been going on. They were arrested. They were sent to jail. But finally, at some point of time, due to the unwanted politics of the country, unwanted politics of the government, they were about to be released. But after performing such a horrendous crime, I don't think they should be released again. So the Supreme Court, under such circumstances, has actually put a small abeyance to the remission which has been given by the government. So, due to the government's influence, a remission is a remission is something where something is made smaller or something is made inactive, something which is stopped. So their punishment was stopped and they were about to be brought back into the society. So the Supreme Court held that this kind of crime, not even the government, not even the most powerful person can overrule it, because end of the day government means rule of law. It is not of rule of personal liberty. It is not rule of a government. So governments are there to make sure that the laws exist. Governments are there to make sure that the rule of law survives rather than rule of personal liberty. So today the major thing I'll be discussing is with respect to rule of law, personal liberty. Because this case study in terms of examination is useful for that part with respect to. So what is it all about? So all of you know, recent judgment was the intricate balance between, please remember this when you're writing in the answer, this is the most important, rule of law versus right to personal liberty. So this is what you have to concentrate on. So the case involved the quashing of the Gujarat's government decision to grant remission. As I said, remission is nothing but something which is stopped, something which is not allowed to continue, or something which is reduced. So I'm sure all of you know Bilkis Bano, she's a survivor of a horrific incident. So the orders were deemed to be illegal and wholly without jurisdiction. So since there was too much involvement of the government, so it was not appreciated, and the Supreme Court made sure that they were sent back. So that's the whole point. So the court's decision aimed to restore the balance between justice and the adherence to legal laws. So fundamentally, this is the point that you have to mention. So with respect to this slide, what is very important is rule of law versus personal liberty, remission of the government, how they're able to do it, that is what you have to concentrate on, and adherence of legal laws versus justice delivered by the Supreme Court. These are the three major points that you have to write for your answer. Next, what is rule of law? Please remember, it is coined by Jane Addams as government of laws, but not government of men. So the rule of the law is above the government, law is above personal, law is above the most powerful person of the country, law is above everything. So this should be the ideology behind running a government. So against executive lawlessness. So this is another keyword that you have to mention. So that is the whole point. Next, what did Supreme Court do? It emphasized on its role as a guardian of the rule of law. So that is the whole highlight point of it. So actually it should be taken in a very, very positive sense on the fact that in spite of all the politics, in spite of all the nonsense which really happened, the Supreme Court stood by the rule of law, made sure that things were on the proper way, and it was successful enough to cancel the remission which has been brought by the government to those culprits. So keeping that in mind, so what are these articles which are very important? With respect to this, Article 21, personal liberty, and but the whole essence of this is Your personal liberty, as long as you are happy with it, and as long as you suffer, as long as it's something related to you exclusively, it's all fine. But once it comes out, and because of your personal liberty, if there is a disturbance to other people's, other other people in the society, then it becomes a nuisance. So making sure Article 21 cannot be misused is the whole point of this case study. So interest of upholding the rule of law. So this versus this. There's another point of view that you have to mention in the exam. Next, another important thing is equality before law. Right. Equality, everyone is equal before law. So that clearly shows that the law applies even to the most poor person, even to the most richest person, even to people without power, even to the most powerful person with the biggest of power. So to make sure that this survives equality of law, breaching the rule of law negates that basic principle under Article 14. So the mentioning part here is Article 14, Article 21. So this versus this, equality of law. And making finally the upholding of the rule of law is very important. Why? Because if democracy has to survive, end of the day what counts is rule of law. That is very important. Next. Now in this case there is a lot of compassion to the victim. So just because you are compassionate does not mean you have to give support only to the person who is a victim. It is not necessary. So please remember, it is compassion versus rule of law. Now this compassion can also be given to culprits because they served for a long time, so enough of punishment. No, that is also not there. So end of the day, whenever a situation comes where there is compassion versus rule of law, please remember, rule of law has no place for emotions, no place for feelings, no place for compassion, no place for empathy, no place for sympathy. End of the day, the law should work. So the whole point is protection of liberty. The court, rule of law must prevail, setting aside the orders of the remission null and void. So the remission has been made null and void. That is the whole highlight of it. Next, another important point that you have to mention is principle of equal protection. Victim should be protected, and the abuser also must be protected of his life, because their life is also life only. So deprivation of liberty for convicts under equal protection of law to maintain justice. So this Bilkis Bano case serves as a significant judicial pronouncement, reaffirming the delicate equilibrium between rule of law and the right to liberty. So this case study is very useful to enhance that essence of it. Now moving on, what are the keywords that you have to definitely mention while writing this answer? First one, rule of law. Next, right to personal liberty, fundamental right in Article 21, remission of convicts, government of laws, equality before law, principle of equality versus prescribed Article 14, and principle of equal protection. So in your answer, when you write the answer, you must make sure that all these keywords are there for your mains.